Welcome to the A.I.P channel where anything is possible. And we'll talk about anything and everything. Today we have the special 9/11 podcast on 9/11. And it's our 11th talking with conspiracy. So it's just the synchronisms is there. So everything is supposed to be. So we're gonna have a fun time tonight. Let me double check, make sure it says we're online. But let me make sure we are doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Let's check it out.
Ladies
and gentlemen, we're live on the Rumble. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are live. I don't know why it's got that name, but that's all right. We'll work with it.
Okay, we're there.
Cool.
Hey, man, it's always a learning. There's a learning curve to everything that we do.
It is. I try to set up another way, and I guess it did that, but that's okay.
Well, the beauty is, though, and take some pride in it, that every time we do this, we get just a little bit better.
That's it. We are learning.
That's right. You keep stacking on your little accomplishments, and next thing you know, you're accomplishing big feats. So proud of you, brother. Keep on, keep it on. But I just checked the Twitter feed. Yes, we are up live on the Twitter.
Yes, sir. We're here. Let me get on here. Let me post it on Twitter there. So before we start, whichever one y'all want to start, where were you when you heard the news of the first plane hitting the towers?
Hang on. Can I do one thing before we jump in here real quick? In all honesty, and in fairness to the people who did actually lose their lives, because it was a tragedy. We're gonna make light of some things today, and we're gonna have some fun. But we need to recognize people did lose their lives. So before anybody goes crazy on us, we pay our utmost respects to the people that did lose their lives, and we're sorry that it happened. And now that that's done, we're fixing to fucking run with it. Dave, where were you on September 11th, sir? Go ahead.
Well, I was in Coach McCord's driver's ed at South Haven High School, and that's where I was.
Wait a minute.
That's right.
You went to school in South Haven?
Class of 04.
No shit. I was supposed to be class of 93, then it turned into 94, then it turned into 95, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to the Marine Corps, get my GED, we're out. I didn't know you were I didn't know you were in South Haven. Wow, Coach McCord's class. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we were in driver's ed that morning. Sure thing. Yep. Never forget that. And and I was filled with fury and patriotism for, I think I mentioned it on a previous episode, for a couple years, and I bought the narrative for a long fucking time, dude. I had done graduated, dude. It was like 05 when I fucking woke up, but that's been part of my journey. That's where it started, Rick.
As long as you woke up, that's all that matters. Sometimes it takes us longer, and you don't want to think about some of this. Like, you don't want to think, man, did this really happen? Did they actually, evil people, and you want to kind of overlook that stuff. But,
right.
But once you start digging, as everybody always says, down that rabbit hole of, it gets deep, and it gets deep and wide, and there's so much information, which we're going to share a piece of it tonight once we get going. So hopefully y'all learn something.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was 2 years after my accident, my motorcycle wreck. I'm trying to get my life back together, and I had enrolled in school over at Northwest, and I was at the South Haven campus there off Church Road, and I remember my mom called my cell phone and was like, "Hey, there's something going on in New York. Plane just hit the tower." So I'm like, "Oh shit!" So we turn it on in the classroom, and second impact. Of course, it's there for everybody to see. And so I go home, Start watching the news, just get completely engulfed in CNN. Anderson Cooper's on the ground. He's my new fucking hero. You know, he's there live capturing it all. And I think the eerie thing of it was being where I lived at on Church Road, right along that I-55 corridor, and all air traffic stopping that day. You know, that is something I never experienced in my lifetime because I always lived close to the airport. So you always heard airplanes. And not hearing airplanes that day was probably the weirdest. It's the one thing I'll never forget. And it's the eeriest thing I think I'll never forget. You know what I mean? Just not hearing planes in the sky. But like you, man, I was pissed, you know, because, and I still have the newspaper. I told Ricky about this. Man, I have the newspaper from USA Today, the New York Times, and the Commercial Appeal from Memphis for September 12, 13, 14, 15. And they had fucking bin Laden's picture in the paper the second day. It's like, holy shit. You know, you motherfuckers solved this case
The
faster
first
than
mention
Waldo.
of his name was 13 minutes in. Go ahead. 13 minutes. Amazing. First time they reported his name. They knew right there before any. Go ahead. Yeah, 13 minutes. Yeah, it's scripted, brother.
It's amazing.
You know, and hang on. One more thing while I'm wearing my conscience, okay? The respect that has to be given to the men and women who have lost their lives over the past 20 some odd years due to a horrible war on terror that should have never happened is what the true, like, that's the big issue that bothers me. All these people died, and, you know, aside from the people in New York, you know, the people that died in country in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, you know, in the war on terror throughout the Middle East is what disgusts me. You know, when you get into the true meat and bones of some of the shit that doesn't make sense in this whole thing, there are some questions that need to be answered. Now, Ricky, I know you've put together a in-depth slideshow of some stuff that you're going to present to us. And some of it, I don't think you know, you and I share a lot of stuff, and I don't think I've seen everything that you have here. So whenever you want to take over your show and run with this baby, let's talk about some oddities.
Yeah. I just want to tell my story. I was at Kroger I did receiving for Kroger, and I remember hearing about it, and I was upset as everybody else. I was like with everybody else. We need to bomb the shit out of them. We need to go. We need to, you know, level the whole Middle East. Basically, really in my head. And then the little thing come out on the news, and they're like, "Well, we found the passport." How the f you find a passport? The fire was so hot that it burnt and melted beams and destroyed 3 buildings after only 2 of them got hit. We'll talk about that. And but there's a passport, and then all of a sudden we go, we're not going to Afghanistan. We're worried about Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And I know a lot of people are like, it don't matter. They all need to go. I'm like, man, it does matter. There's something wrong here. There's something that's wrong with this scenario. And that made me go ask questions, because I've always been one to ask questions and stuff. And so it's like, okay, here we go. And for our show, I got a quick video real quick at the beginning. They'll kind of explain where we're at and what we're thinking process, I think, is asking the questions that we asked.
9/11 was an inside job, motherfuckers.
Eddie Bravo says so it's got to be true. Hell yeah. All right.
September 11th, 2001. 19 men armed with box cutters, directed by a man on dialysis in a cave fortress halfway around the world, using a satellite phone and a laptop, directed the most sophisticated penetration of the most heavily defended airspace in the world, overpowering the passengers and the military combat-trained pilots on 4 commercial aircraft before flying those planes wildly off course for over an hour without being molested by a single fighter interceptor. These 19 hijackers, devout religious fundamentalists who like to drink alcohol, snort cocaine, and live with pink-haired strippers, managed to knock down 3 buildings with 2 planes in New York. While in Washington, a pilot who couldn't handle a single-engine Cessna was able to fly a 757 in an 8,000-foot descending 270-degree corkscrew turn to come exactly level with the ground, hitting the Pentagon and the budget analyst office where DoD staffers were working on the mystery of the $2.3 trillion that Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld had announced missing from the Pentagon's coffers in a press conference the day before, on September 10th, 2001. Luckily, the news anchors knew who did it within minutes.
Osama bin Laden.
The pundits knew within hours.
Osama bin Laden.
The administration knew within the day.
Terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
And the evidence literally fell into the FBI's lap.
That a hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
But for some reason, a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists demanded an investigation into the greatest attack on American soil in history. That investigation was delayed, underfunded, set up to fail, a conflict of interest, and a cover-up from start to finish. It was based on testimony extracted through torture, the records of which were destroyed. It failed to mention the existence of WTC-7, Able Danger, P-TECH, Sibel Edmonds, OBL and the CIA, and the drills of hijacked aircraft being flown into buildings that were being simulated at the precise same time that those events were actually happening. It was lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, the Bush administration, and as for Bush and Cheney, well, no one knows what they told it because they testified in secret, off the record, not under oath, and behind closed doors. It didn't bother to look at who funded the attacks because that question is ultimately of little practical significance. Still, the 9/11 Commission did brilliantly answering all of the questions the public had, except most of the victims' family members' questions, and pinned blame on all the people responsible, although no one so much as lost their job, determining the attacks were
failure of imagination.
Because
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
Except the Pentagon, FEMA, NORAD, and the NRO. The DIA destroyed 2.5 terabytes of data on Able Danger, but that's okay because it probably wasn't important. The SEC destroyed their records on the investigation into the insider trading before the attacks, but that's okay because destroying the records of the largest investigation in SEC history is just part of routine record keeping. NIST has classified the data that they used for their model of WTC-7's collapse, but that's okay because knowing how they made their model of the collapse would jeopardize public safety. The FBI has argued that all material related to their investigation of 9/11 should be kept secret from the public, but that's okay because the FBI probably has nothing to hide. This man never existed, nor is anything he had to say worthy of your attention, and if you say otherwise, you are a paranoid conspiracy theorist and deserve to be shunned by all of humanity. Likewise him, and her. And her, and her, and him. Osama bin Laden lived in a cave fortress in the hills of Afghanistan, but somehow got away. Then he was hiding out in Tora Bora, but somehow got away. Then he lived in Abbottabad for years, taunting the most comprehensive intelligence dragnet employing the most sophisticated technology in the history of the world for a decade, releasing video after video with complete impunity and getting younger and younger as he did so, before finally being found in a daring SEAL team raid which wasn't recorded on video, in which he didn't resist or use his wife as a human shield, and in which these crack special forces operatives panicked and killed this unarmed man, supposedly the best source of intelligence about those dastardly terrorists on the entire planet. Then they dumped his body in the ocean before telling anyone about it. Then a couple dozen of that team's members died in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. This is the story of 9/11, brought to you by the media which told you the hard truths about
his head could be seen to move violently forward.
And
they took the babies out of the incubators.
And
mobile production facility.
And
the rescue of Jessica Lynch.
If you have any questions about this story, you are a batshit paranoid tinfoil dog-abusing baby hater and will be reviled by everyone. If you love your country and or freedom, happiness, rainbows, rock and roll, puppy dogs, apple pie, and your grandma, you will never ever express doubts about any part of this story to anyone. Ever. This has been a public service announcement by the Friends of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DIA, SEC, NSM, White House, NIST, and the 9/11 Commission. Because ignorance is strength.
Well, thank you, George Orwell.
You know, I bought the story for about 2 days. And my issue that I had immediately with the images that I was being shown was that the crash in Pennsylvania did not make sense to me. Because the scene and the site there was nothing but a hole in the ground, what looked like paper around. And they're like, well, the aircraft went down at such a pitch that it nose dove into the ground and buried itself into the ground. Where's the tail section? Where's the engine? Where's come on, bro? I've seen video of aircraft that have impacted the side of mountains, bro, and there's always a tail section. There's always a tail section. There's not one in Shanksville. The Pentagon, hang on. Then you start seeing some images out the Pentagon. What's the first thing you see? A little fan blade. Do you have a picture of that in your little slideshow there, Mr. Ricky Pike?
Actually, I don't have that one.
I'm gonna pull it for you then.
I forgot to get that one.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was no way in blue hell that was any part of a
right.
jet.
The aircraft that hit the alleged aircraft that hit the Pentagon was a 757. Okay, the engines on that it's like a 6 or 7 foot diameter fan blade, right? There's photos that they took of these guys carrying this box out of there. Let me find this blade, bro. I know I can find it here on Twitter. But they have an image of it, man, and this thing is no more than 2.5 or 3 feet. And they immediately said it looks like something that came from a cruise missile, or let's see.
Yeah, it was like a Tomahawk bunker busting
cruise missile, bro.
Yeah,
cruise missile, bro.
Bunker buster, baby, and that's exactly what it hit. And in a little bit, when we get to the pictures, you'll see like the perfectly round hole and the perfectly round hole inside the building. We're going to get to the Pentagon.
All the cameras around that building, and you get 4 or 5 frames of that event. And feds went and got all of the closed circuit TV footage from all the neighboring gas stations, all the shit within a mile or 2 radius. They went and got all the footage. And then here's 5 frames. It was a plane, trust us, but even that footage makes it look like a missile. Yeah. Another lie.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Add it to the rest of them.
Oh, yeah. I just found it. Found it.
Nice. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
There it is. So the blades that would be in an aircraft that size are 4 times the circumference of that. You know what I mean? That is 3 feet. You know what I mean? 2.5 feet, 2 feet. These things are massive, bro, that come out of this aircraft. So you can't tell me that right there came out of a 757.
Yeah,
so yeah, you do. That's my picture. I'm done. I'm just gonna talk off what you got now. I'm done.
Yeah, I slipped up and didn't get that one.
I'm here for you, little brother. Tell us about who this is.
This is Lucky Larry. How lucky can you be? You spend $14 million to buy the World Trade Center 6 weeks before it gets destroyed, and make $4.5 billion off the compensation on insurance. That's lucky, isn't it? He just got it, and luckily he had that policy. Absolutely amazing. It says here, if the ones who are listening, right, I can't see the picture. It said acquired 99-year lease for Twin Towers just 6 weeks before 9/11. Insures both towers for $3.2 billion against acts of terrorism. Ensures he can build new World Trade Center complex if destroyed, which he did.
They talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What I was going to say is there was a story that before he was, or while he was putting the bid in on the building, that there was a quote that was done on what it was going to cost to remove all the asbestos from the building. And apparently, like, that figure was just astronomical. And then they couldn't demo the buildings because, again, of the asbestos. They would have to physically remove it from the building. So I don't know how that plays into it. I mean, how else would you fix it? Oh, I'd demo the building. You know, I mean, continue, sir. I'm sorry. I said I was going to shut up. Let me mute this thing.
You're good. You're good. I mean, and on that thought process, like, and that's what all them poor people in New York was breathing, all that asbestos from them buildings. And when it got pulverized to dust, it didn't fall down. It got pulverized. But we'll get to that in a second. But said his wife allegedly convinced him to attend a dermatologist appointment on the morning of 9/11 instead of his scheduled meeting in the North Tower. That's just a coincidence right there for sure. Twin Tower attacked, collapsing to dust along with his other skyscraper, World Trade Center 7, all plummeting at near free fall speed. Only time in history that has ever happened without demolition. Files insurance claim for $7 billion, arguing tax on Twin Towers consists of two separate events, thus double compensation required. Settles for $4.5 billion compensation on Twin Towers and collects millions in other insurance payouts. Of course, he builds a new complex. So now we're going to hear from old Lucky Larry.
Going downtown, we got very, very lucky. I had an obligation to collect the insurance proceeds from the policies. A new governor was just elected. Elliot Spitzer, an old friend who I knew well. I said, Elliot, if you don't help me, I'll never collect from the insurance companies. And guess what? He listened, and he said, you know what? You're entitled. I'm going to get you the money. And in 6 months, he got me the $4.5 billion. We got very, very lucky.
Lucky. That's it.
Hey,
Lucky.
Ricky.
Yes.
What language is that behind him there?
Hush now.
Good question.
What alien script is that language right there? I seem to think I know what it is, but I don't want to.
It might start with an I.
Don't get us kicked off here.
I'm not getting kicked off. We can't. We're on Rumble. We're good. Yeah,
we're already banned from YouTube.
I just won't be able to post it on YouTube. That's all. It starts with an I, but that's it.
I mean, I would, right. You know, I mean, it's interesting because that plays into some stuff, you know, and continue. It's off.
Any comment, Dave, before we move on?
There's another video of Steen, perhaps, where he says, pull it. We made the decision to pull it. Of course, that's the classic clip. We all
which
remember
is
that
a demolition term. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Which is a demolition term for when you want ready to take a building down.
Correct.
But he didn't mean it that way. That's just coincidence. Just like everything else is a coincidence. There's no facts here. Here's a shot of one of the planes. And supposedly this plane hit so hard, and there's actually somebody standing right here waving. And there's actually somebody right here too, but it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing picture.
Guess what I just found, Mr. Ricky Pike?
Oh, hell.
I have the video of one Larry Silverstein talking about pulling the building.
Nice.
Would you like to see that, sir?
Yeah. Let's do that. Then we'll go on to that picture now. We'll talk about that picture. Go ahead, because we need to know. Lucky Larry
pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed. 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Yeah.
But that's not in the 9/11 Commission report.
No, they left that part out.
Good thing they had the building
this picture
wired
here
for demo, though, just in case they needed to pull it in such an instance where there was a fire already. Good luck. Again, lucky Larry.
Yeah, it's it takes weeks to get ready for.
Yeah, right. That's incredible. What
moments.
Right. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
man. The fucking
it takes weeks to get ready for demolition.
Dynamite and stick it in there.
Isn't there some kind of weird photo that was taken inside? Let's see. I thought there was a picture or something of these guys doing this weird construction work inside where they look like they've pulled.
They had some. I don't have that one. The picture, if y'all are looking, actually watching on Rumble or Twitter, here's the layout, which a lot of people don't realize. There's more than 3 buildings at the World Trade Center Plaza. There's a lot of buildings. Here's 7 up here with my little arrow. Here's 1 and 2 that were actually hit. Here's the direction they were hit. So this one come on this way. This one here came in this way. You got building 4, 5, and 3, which they demolished everything over here and built a new plaza. Everything's gone. Here's what it looked at after the incident. Building 1, it kind of cuts out 7, but I have another picture of 7 a little better. Here's 2 crumbled to the ground. Here's 4. Here's building 6 with a hole down the center of it. What in the hell happened there? It didn't get hit by nothing. It didn't get hit by a plane. It didn't have office fires like 7 as they reported. What happened to building 6 to have a hole down the center of it? Makes you go, for sure.
Do you know what building 6 was?
That one, did I? No.
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah,
let's go. Hey, let's see what Wikipedia tells me.
It's going to tell you the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like it had a U.S. Customs Service on the 7th floor. The 6th floor was the U.S. Department of Commerce, the Bureau of Alcohol, ATF Explosives, United States Department of Labor, U.S. Export Assistance Center. Here's what's crazy is floor 5. All right, so that's 7 and 6. Floor 543, it doesn't list anything. You go down to 2. It's got the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearm, and Explosive. Like, it doesn't, like, what the hell was in?
That's where explosives were.
It's fucking right.
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearm, and Explosives. That's kind of crazy, man.
Coincidence, that's all.
So what it says here on the Wikipedia page, September 11 attacks and cleanup. During the September 11 attacks, the collapse of the North Tower destroyed large sections of 6 World Trade Center. 2 days later, with the crushed section of the building, 2 steel beams connected in the shape of a cross were found. That's where they found the cross at.
Right.
Okay.
With the perfect, but yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
I'm about to send you a little message here of I just lost it. Never mind. It's gone.
Oh,
there it is. It's back.
Here's building 7 actually with the windows and steam and smoke bowling out of it. It's right before it collapsed. Here's a picture of the if you believe, some of the things they actually found from the wreckage of the planes hitting. Landing gear way over here, blew right through the whole building, I guess. Actually blew through the building and went through another building to actually hit over there, I'd imagine, where the trajectory is.
Okay, well, in all fairness, an aircraft doing hundreds of miles an hour has a lot of kinetic energy.
It does, no doubt.
So,
I agree. That's possible. Right there. Don't ask me. Here's a good picture. Here's building 7 collapse. Like I said, here's building, which, they're not even.
Look at the fucking hole in that, bro.
They don't even mark building 6. Like, wait a minute. Don't worry about this right here. Don't worry about this hole right here.
Mm-hmm.
Just worry about this building, and this building.
Yeah, if we worry about 7 at all, but you never hear a peep about 6.
Yeah. 7, is, to me, 7 was a smoking gun on the attack on New York. That said, wait a minute, to make me ask questions. Building 7 for sure was, and then not too long ago, I started looking and I heard. I think it was on Sam Tripoli, one of his podcasts. He's got like 37 of them or something. So shout out Sam Tripoli. He had somebody on there who was talking about building 6, and I'm like, what the hell is building 6? And so I looked it up. I'm like, whoa, that's even more impressive than building 7 because
another mystery.
It was never hit. Nothing would hit it, but there's a hole down the center of it. Like the detonation didn't work and just blew the center out of it. What it looks like, truly. I could be wrong. No facts here, just asking questions. Here's a video of the plane coming in. I almost missed the tower.
Have you heard the story of the potential of them using? They talked about like hologram technology or whatever, kind of like what's the game that these fools played a couple of years ago, Pokemon Go or wherever it was. You point your phone at something and then it shows you something that's not really there, but it's in your screen. You ever heard the theory? Have you ever heard the theory that that's what this was? That, they just AI'd this shit into your screen of whatever your device was. Do you believe any of that bullshit?
That one I don't believe whatsoever.
Do you believe that they remote control flew a fucking plane into the building?
Now, I wouldn't doubt they kamikazed somebody. Hell, it don't surprise me none. But the technology with drones and stuff like that, it's possible. But yeah, when you slow down, I don't have any of the images. I didn't, but it looks like a different plane. It really does. If you watch, what was the name of that damn? I should have
Loose Change.
Yeah, I think it was Loose Change was the one that actually was I watched years and years ago.
They tried to discredit that thing, and there's just too much stuff that makes sense in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about me. I always wanted, like, they're talking about, everybody was talking about the jet fuel that burned everything. Here's the jet fuel exploding right here.
Exploding out, right.
and they're burning instantly. It's just like fire, like gasoline. You throw gasoline at a, if you ever play with gasoline, take a bucket and you throw it on a fire, it's got a big old fireball. Then it goes back down and it goes back to a regular little fire. It might burn a little bit hotter, but not much. Especially, if you got something dry or something like that. Hell, this was a fucking building, concrete and steel. So most of the fuel got exploded. Even with the diesel generators, diesel does not burn that hot.
Right.
It can't to make molten, like a foundry is what them firefighters said.
Yeah, listen to the firefighters. That's where the most damning testimony lies, is with all of the heroes that were there testifying to explosions and molten fucking magma after
bomb. Yeah, all the bombs, like they were blue. There was second explosions. There was all this
explosions, all like successive, all day, all morning. Like they've been hearing them. That shit, like that's the
Right.
damning factor right there, man. This shit is a joke to pretend otherwise. And so, we're being lied to. All the funniest memes that I saw today were like this funny face staring at somebody that still believes the official narrative. Like there's still people that believe that. And sadly, there are people that cling to that. And it's,
oh yeah,
it's kind of sad, man, because, man, we're being fucking took for a whole ride. Started that day, I'd say, started getting,
the effects of it, the effects of it immediately was the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look at how quick all of America jumped on board right out of the gate to just say, hey, we want the government intruding in my private life. I want them to be able to go get a bullshit warrant and tap my phone and bug my house. We jumped on board with that so quick because the media painted, a bunch of Muslim dudes as the big bad boogeyman.
It's only, and because it was supposed to be temporary, only a moment, which we knew better. We knew we had to know better. They weren't, once they get a hold of something, they're not going to.
They're never going to let it go, man.
He who gives up freedom for security deserves and shall have neither one.
And if you look at, you could see, and there was a lot of good-hearted people that, just okay, that this is going to be temporary. This is, whatever it takes to get where we can get back to where we were. And those people were so naive that and didn't understand that we were never going to get to that point again.
No, never.
That was a turning point in history of how the world was, and just one of the ones, like the day before was the final page of that chapter, and as soon as that hit, was a whole new book.
Listen to this. The U.S. Patriot Act, preserving life and liberty, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. Now, right out the gate, when you talk about, it says the act improves counterterrorism efforts in several significant ways. The Patriot Act allows investigators to use the tools that were already available to investigate organized crime and drug trafficking. Now, you think, oh my God, well, we really need that. Okay, well, now you have to start considering, what is drug trafficking? Is some dude that just sells a couple, a couple little bags of weed, is that a drug trafficker? Do you now give the government the right to completely intrude in that dude's nickel and dime little business and shut that guy down? Next, it says allows law enforcement the use of surveillance against more crimes of terror, allows federal agents to follow sophisticated terrorists trained to evade detection, allows law enforcement to conduct investigation without tipping off terrorists, allows federal agents to ask a court for order to obtain business records in a national security terrorism case. Like you hear all that and you go, man, that sounds like a great idea, until you start hearing the language of the last year where they talk about domestic terrorism. Everybody on the right all of a sudden is a domestic terrorist, you know, a nationalist. If you believe in this country, all of a sudden you fall into what these guys are trying to label you as, and that's a bad precedent. You know, that is not good.
No, I
Gentlemen,
agree. I agree for sure.
We have 9/11, the time coming up in about 20 seconds. We should do a moment of silence again, like you said, Jamie, out of respect for everybody that lost their life, for what was done to us, to our country. Because I told you we were, and you agreed, full of fury and patriotism, but just learning that my government may have been complicit or behind it in some way, I'm still filled with the same fury and the same patriotism. So a moment of silence, huh?
Okay. Yes, sir. For sure, sure. I mean,
never
for
forget
people's lives and all the people's lives that lost afterwards, like all the firefighters and all the ones got all kinds of diseases and people just come up disappeared because they actually spoke out. Those poor people too, you know. Yeah, there's all that power. Here's been my question on it, and I'll have videos in a little bit. You can see it. It looks like the Mummy movie, with people with the cloud coming at you, because it actually, as you see here, it actually pulverized the building. If a building fell over, it'd be one thing. I mean, that would make sense. Like it just like it, okay, this beam's weakened. That would make sense to me in my head. And then the building kind of creeped over and it got weak and it fell over. But we'll have a video in a second showing that even when it got started to lean over, it it still didn't.
Do you have did you snag the video of the engineer that's doing the ice pack test where he's showing how it would slide off on an ice pack?
I have not seen that one.
That's very interesting because he shows how it would cripple to the side and it would do either a slide off or it would fall off, but the energy of the building would still stay intact. The only bit of it that would be affected is just the top piece that took the impact and is leaning. You know, nothing under it would be affected. And he does this demonstration on a snow stack.
Oh, wow. Here's some of the poor firefighters that are sitting there. These poor people.
I'm in a building, start clearing up. Sorry, it seems a bomb. What'd you say? Bomb in the building, start clearing up. Got it.
And is that 7 he's talking about?
I'm not sure on that one, but they're for sure was saying. I'd imagine so. I'm not sure on that part.
So
he's for sure down there, and the word bomb came out.
He's telling people to clear the fuck out. I want to say that there was a lot of videos of firefighters clearing the area around 7 before it came down. They were just like, "Look, I don't know what to tell you. This building's fucking coming down," and that plays into what Larry said. Like, we made the decision to pull it. This is hours later. And, you know, this is the 47-story building, not the 2 towers that came down, however they came down. This is later, right? Is there dust and shit on the street here already? Can you see?
It don't. It's hard to see.
As we were getting our gear on and making our way to the stairway, there was a heavy-duty explosion.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the...
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion.
I heard a second explosion and another rumble.
An hour later than that, we had that big explosion from much, much lower.
It just went boom, it was like a bomb went off. And another explosion came right from it, just everyone flying.
There were numerous secondary explosions taking place in that building.
Watch this shit.
Explosions.
No, the first explosion, and there was a second explosion in the same building. There were two explosions.
Okay. Federal agencies that were down there do believe that there was some sort of explosive device somewhere else besides the planes hitting.
There was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building.
There was a secondary explosion, probably a device either planted before or on the aircraft that did not explode until an hour later.
Then there was some secondary explosions and then the subsequent collapses.
That the FBI most likely thinks that there was a car or truck packed with explosives underneath the buildings, which also exploded at the same time and brought both of them down.
Now, that's the first time we're hearing that. So 2 planes and explosives that were in the building. Is that correct?
That is the working theory at this point. That is
A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us.
It sounded like gunfire, you know, bang, 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 and then all of a sudden 3 big explosions.
About 50 consecutive bangs, and it fell down like a waterfall.
And we heard the noise associated with an implosion.
We heard a very loud blast, an explosion. We looked up, and the building literally began to collapse before us.
We heard a loud explosion, and at that point, Building 2 was collapsing.
At that point, we heard a large boom. I looked up and just saw the building coming at us.
Do you know if it was an explosion or if it was a building collapse? To me, it sounded like an explosion.
There was another major explosion. The building itself, literally the top of it came down.
All of a sudden you hear explosion, and you could see the building starting to collapse.
Huge explosion that we all heard and felt.
We understand now there has been a secondary explosion on Tower 2.
According to the Associated Press, another building that has either been attacked or exploded.
The tower, rather, that has collapsed, though we are told, collapsed because of a third explosion.
And about an hour later after that, there was a huge explosion at the base of the South Tower. That's One World Trade Center, and part of the building collapsed.
We could hear a rumble, which was about 5 seconds long, preceding the actual collapse, and then a boom when each of those towers collapsed.
Just seconds ago, there was a huge explosion, and it appears right now the Second World Trade Tower has just collapsed.
As you see, like all the news reports are reporting the same thing.
And remember, there's video that shows as that collapse starts, where you've got the corners of the building that have blast marks that are pouring out of the side of the building.
I think I have that video on here. I'm pretty sure I do. So I got 43 slides or whatever on this thing, so it's it's a lot.
What happened? It collapsed. The top floors collapsed down. I saw it blow and then ran like hell. Thank God. I'm 69, but I can still run. There's got to be volume and trap back there, though.
I'll check this one out. This is like a movie. It's truly, I know it really happened, but it looks like.
Right, I remember this. Yeah, this is the guy that hides in the shop.
He's got one dude who helps him out though. I give him.
Yeah.
Dude's like, hey, look behind you, and he turns around. And he's like, holy shit. That had been horrible. It's,
fuck, man.
At that point, you couldn't see. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna run over somebody? You're gonna run into cars? You're gonna get hurt? Just horrible.
Antenna on it.
and the restaurant windows on the world is in that tower. The other one is the one with the observation deck. At this point, the Associated Press with a story that says there is no report of any casualties, without jumping to too many conclusions, looking at the extent of this damage and knowing how well populated that building is. Now there's another explosion.
You can see the plane come in from the background. It's pretty wild.
There were thousands, probably, of people in these buildings.
Sure.
Where are they? Where did they go?
The remains of several hundred people were recovered from Ground Zero and ceremonially buried. But there was no trace left at all of over 1,500 who died.
Remember the people who left the building early? They've been referred to as jumpers. I don't think they voluntarily jumped.
How many people are we talking about?
About 1,200.
It was raining people.
It appears that there's a lot of mass coming out of the building for hours.
So basically it was disintegrating from the inside.
Yeah. By 5:20 p.m., there wasn't enough mass left to slam to the ground.
The walls were like an empty shell.
At the World Trade Center, 50 times the normal levels of tritium were discovered.
It's from some kind of nuclear reaction.
This is the really weird thing, isn't it? There was a big hurricane on the morning of 9/11, just off the coast. And bizarrely, it seems, no one on the news mentioned it.
This was recorded in Alaska. Ground-based magnetometers at 6 different locations.
Yes.
At precisely that moment, the Earth's magnetic field changed. He creates a static field, and within that static field, he interferes radio frequency signals. This interference is a different kind of physics.
That video there kind of made me go, because some of that I never heard of a day in my life. I didn't remember the hurricane. Do y'all remember the hurricane?
I don't.
Just lots of coincidence. That's all. More coincidences.
The quiet hurricane of September 11.
Huh.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, Hurricane Erin was spinning in the Atlantic Ocean, not far from the eastern seaboard. The storm, a peak, was a Category 3 hurricane with winds up to 120 miles an hour. Thankfully, impacts were limited to beaches and heavy rain over Bermuda in the ocean.
Jamie, I've got to have you read to me what Wikipedia says about Operation Able Danger. That little drill they were doing.
And
Brub mentioned.
Bro, I already have it pulled up.
No way. All right.
Able Danger was a classified military planning effort led by U.S. Special Operations Command, SOCOM, and the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. So I just heard about these guys about a year ago, right? The Defense Intelligence Agency. We need to come back to that. It was created as a result of a directive from the Joint Chiefs of Staff in October 1999 by Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Hugh Shelton, to develop an information operation campaign plan against transitional terrorism. According to statements by Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer and those other 4, Able Danger had identified 2 of the 3 Al-Qaeda cells active on September 11th and linked them to the Brooklyn and the Brooklyn cell linked to blind Sheikh Omar Abel Rahman, including 9/11 leader Mohammed Atta and 3 of the plot's other 19 hijackers. Holy crap, man! Like, first of all, I can't see, but second of all, damn, I did not know some of this. Says in December of 2006, a 19-month investigation by the U.S. Central Intelligence Committee concluded Abel Danger did not identify Muhammad Atta or any other 9/11 hijacker at any time prior to September 11, and dismissed other assertions that have fueled the 9/11 conspiracy theories. The Senate Judiciary Committee first attempted to investigate the matter for the Senate in September 2005. The Pentagon ordered 5 key witnesses not to testify, according to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Arlen Specter. That looks to me as if it may be obstruction of the committee's activities, Specter, Republican, Pennsylvania, said at the start of the committee's hearing to the unit. Holy shit, man. Like, yeah.
And
says this program, check this out. Hang on, the first paragraph of the overview. This program used data mining techniques and associated with open source information along with classified information in an attempt to make connections among individual members of terrorist groups as part of its original intelligence preparation of the battle space. So basically, they got online and they looked for anything that they could to link any of these people together. Wow.
Pretty wild.
Bro. You know,
okay,
man,
and I apologize. That is a relevant facet of this 9/11 topic. But what I was really talking about, Ricky will know when I say it, was Operation Vigilant Guardian. Vigilant Guardian, which was AI overview. Operation Vigilant Guardian was a command post exercise that was being conducted when the September 11th 01 attacks occurred. The exercise was a semi-annual NORAD exercise that was being run alongside Global Guardian and involved all NORAD command levels. The exercise simulated a bomber attack from the former Soviet Union. So on September 11th, one of the scenarios being run during Vigilant Guardian was a simulated hijacking. Imagine that. After the first attack, it took about 30
so basically
seconds to adjust, blah, blah, blah. They were running drills that just so happened, and to run, and it's an excuse.
So I just want to make sure that we can confirm that drills were being run, aircraft were in the air, jets were in the air, and no aircraft was intercepted.
They actually asked a question. The pilots were asking, hey, is this part of the drill? Because they were communicating, and there's radio feedback of that where they're communicating, hey, is this really a drill, or is this real, or is this part of the drill?
And an incredible amount of time passed as well, right? Like between the different incidents of the 3 or 4 supposed incidents, you have 2 towers. They were separated by a span of 20, 30 minutes. Then you had, right? So they had all this time, huge amount of time, and still nothing. And you compare that to normal air response time. Like if a pilot is not,
I mean, they flew around for a while. I mean, they actually flew around for a while before the incident happened. So it was, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Poor Building 7, just falling down.
Let's watch it fall. Let's go ahead and just watch how clean this building just loses its bearing and just falls out of space and time.
Crumbles right there on top. You see it kind of lose it.
This is old news. The BBC knew about this an hour ago.
They did.
Are you playing the video? I'm locked up.
Yeah,
I can't see
playing the video. This is interesting to me here. I'll set the stage of this right here. Before, before one of the towers came down, there was a lot of electronic magnetic interference, like they were using
radio transmissions,
like that.
right.
Like just like if I traveled one time with my mom we were going, go pick me up a truck. And I said, well, we're going to go this way because this will be a shorter way, which it wasn't for whatsoever. But they were putting in some highway and they were it was around middle Tennessee, and they had spots where they were using TNT and stuff, so you couldn't use your phone, you couldn't use nothing because you're afraid they're going to set it off. And yeah. Yeah, as the everything quiets down, the building comes down.
It's because there's no more detonator going off.
Right. Into dust.
How does it just go into dust? Isn't that just...
Yes.
Isn't that just crazy?
Absolutely amazing. How does it burn like a foundry coming out of the damn thing? It's a quick video, but yeah, how is it burning so hot that it's like a foundry? Pouring. You know, anybody who's worked with steel or anything like that knows that, you know, you got to get it hot, you know, hot.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
you melt it, you know, oxygen acetylene torch. If you're cutting metal, you know, you can't use just a propane weed burner, you know, it won't get hot enough, you know, especially not to do that. Good God. Doo-doo. More pictures of the absolute molten
and jet fuel burns at
coming out, pouring out like a foundry.
To 1,000 degrees normally, and it would take 3,000. It would take, you know, degrees to melt that steel beams.
Right.
So it's just unthinkable.
To that point, yeah. I mean,
you did that.
You know, you'll start losing like structure at like 1,500. You know, it would get flexible and start bending and stuff like that. But to turn it to liquid lava, you know, damn near, yeah, that's a whole nother level of ridiculousness.
And that wouldn't account for the explosions.
Yeah, that's not thermite.
You know, they talked about smelling thermite in the Pentagon. That's not right, not thermite.
Yeah, did you see? Can you see the video, Jamie? Or are you still locked up?
No, go ahead. Play it again. Oh, yeah, I see what that does. Yeah, I know what thermite does, man. It burns the holes in metal, bro. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
And the impact of a jet. From what I understand, the outer skeleton of the building, the outer columns was like a fishnet, and you had these inner core columns, which was substantial, thick steel beams to withstand 4 or 5 times what the loads were. The engineers always over-design a building. No steel frame building has ever collapsed before or since 9/11. So that should say something right there. And it said that Building 7, it was a progressive collapse, that it was caused by fire. But progressive collapse, unlike the Twin Towers collapse from the top down. That's a progressive collapse, floor by floor by floor. But if you look at the videos of Building 7 collapsing, it collapses uniformly. It's collapsing from the bottom. The building stays intact all the way to the bottom of the ground, and you could see the sides caving in on it. For a building to collapse uniformly, which the videos show, all the load-bearing columns would have to have failed simultaneously. Now, fire doesn't act like that. I came across an analogy of the Twin Towers, and if you could visualize cast iron stoves, stacked one on top of each other. The stoves up at the top, yes, there's fire and they've been damaged, but the stoves on the bottom, they haven't been damaged. So the structure underneath all of that is intact. So it's impossible for a building to collapse near free fall speed and increase
without a controlled demolition.
You're running into the path of most resistance. So something else is going on. I don't believe that it was just the planes or the fires. I think that, and they examined the dust and they found what they call thermitic material, which is like an explosive incendiary, which was in the dust samples, and that's documented. There were reports of the buildings were undergoing an extensive elevator renovation in the 2 or 3 years prior to.
Pause that.
The workers.
So I don't know if you remember this, but there was someone in New York City that went around and they were collecting ash from the debris. And what they were doing is they were bottling this ash up and they were selling it on eBay before it got yanked. I don't know if you ever heard of this, but I remember this happening, right? There was a news story about it. So they pull the material, right? Well, now that none of that material exists anymore, you can't test it. But I would almost bet that if you tested some of that ash and debris, that it would test positive for explosive material. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because that shit doesn't it doesn't completely disappear. You know what I mean? So, and then when you talk about explosives, you know, the not thermite, but cordite. Cordite is, there were people inside the Pentagon that reported smelling that, and apparently we have munitions that have that type of chemical in it, and it reproduces that. Dude, they said they smelled the stuff inside the Pentagon. You know, so continue your video. I'm sorry.
You're good, man. Yeah.
They had access to the cores of the building. And on the day of the attack, the elevator company would not assist in the operations of the elevators. And the elevator company it subsequently went out of business. And a couple of years after that, the information is out there. At one time when I was heavily engaged in trying to get a new investigation, I definitely felt threatened. I felt threatened for my family, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. You have sworn testimonies from firefighters regarding explosions in the building. They were suppressed. Just somebody making a statement, especially from firemen and police, if they make a statement, I heard an explosion, that's grounds to initiate an investigation. The firefighters, a bomb went off. This is their own words made that day. They just ignored it. Just like Building 7 was.
Yeah, they don't want the truth.
At the beginning of its final destruction, World Trade Center 2 tips or twists to the east, but turns to dust before hitting the ground. The tipping top falsifies the claims by NIST that it was an inevitable collapse.
If the leaning top had fallen as a rigid block, it would have landed on World Trade Center 4. When we look, it is not there. Not only is it not there, but neither is the main body of World Trade Center 4 itself.
That was a big aha moment for me about the tipping top. It looks like it stops tipping, and it looks like it goes straight down. Well, if you look at angular momentum, and you're going to obey the laws of physics, it does. But what it does is prove that the building is no longer a rigid body. You know, the whole thing, tipping, has angular momentum, but if suddenly all of that top portion turns into little itty-bitty specks of dust, each one can keep rotating. So the whole thing doesn't continue rotating as a rigid body, but each of the little specks rotates. And that way it conserves angular momentum and doesn't violate the laws of physics. So that's a way of proving that the top turned to dust.
In this video, we can see that some of the core columns survive the rest of the building being peeled away from it like a banana. But then these core columns themselves turn to dust before our eyes. At the beginning of...
I was trying to pause it. Yeah, that's how does steel turn to dust without without some kind of help? Absolutely, to me, absolutely incredible.
Building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few.
Here's the classic classic BBC where they actually said that Building 7 fell before it even fell. He keeps saying it fell, even though it's behind his
Moments
woman.
ago was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. It seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. As you can see behind me, the Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
Presumably there were very few people in the Salomon building when it collapsed. I mean, there were, I suppose, fears of possible further collapses around the area.
That's what you would hope, because they don't really know where to turn. That's the very sad thing. I think there's going to be a lot of very, very traumatized people that has hit them very, very hard.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were completely flabbergasted by it and just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, it almost sounded too far-fetched.
Yeah, you think?
I was wondering what it's felt like for you being in Manhattan. Well, unfortunately, I think we've lost the line with Jane Stanley in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost the line. We had to cut that shit off because the tower was still there.
Exactly. I mean, he kept saying it over and over, and then she kept saying, "Hey, it's not falling down. It's still burning." But he knew what was coming, and how did he know what was coming? Well, it makes you go, for sure. Another picture. Again, Building 6 here with the center blown out of it. Poor World Trade 7 right here. Again, 6 never had anything hit it whatsoever. It was never claimed to have any fires. Here's another picture from the ground of Building 6. Absolutely all the windows are blown out. So it wasn't just like it was some debris or something fell on top of the building, that part or whatever. All the windows are blown out like it had exploded. It exploded from the center out, and it just looks like that. That's what it looks like to me. My professional opinion, I guess you say. What do y'all think of Building 6? And have you heard about Building 6 until we had talked about this recently? Or
Building 6 kind of gives me this, I kind of want to say Oklahoma City bombing feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's weird. If pieces of the building tipped over and landed on the top, that would explain, the debris on the top, the way the building is broken down, right? But how the building has a fucking hole in the middle of it, still just, do you have a picture of the hole?
Yes. Here's that picture.
Exactly. Help me understand how, like, man, I just never understood that,
Mm-mm. I hadn't either since I found out about it. That one right there is, I don't know. That one there was just, which I look at everything. If you see some kinds of events nowadays, and you see the news, and you're going to look around, and especially big events, a lot of times there's There's drilling going on at the same time, just like the Boston bombing had the same thing happening there. There was a drill going on at the same time. Coincidence? I know, coincidence for sure. Uh, you know, it's the same thing here. It had, like we were talking about earlier, the drill was going on at the same time, and I guess this is a good way to get rid of asbestos and stuff.
Right. I mean, if you want to, clear a building out and save some money, just implode it.
Yeah, and then you get paid, 10 times more than you ever paid for it, and 14 million to 4.5 billion, whatever that ratio is. And then you can build back, and you're still getting money. Hell, that's
Think about
pretty
all
good deal.
the agendas that must have aligned here, and it's not that complicated. You got a bunch of Fed spaces in these floors. You got a guy that needs to get rid of these buildings and not lose his ass in the deal, in the process. He's plugged in with some heavy hitter Hebrew friends, right?
Right.
You've got a neocon administration that would love nothing more than to go and finish daddy's unfinished business in the Middle East. They'd love to crank up the surveillance tyranny on their own people. They'd love nothing better than the Hegelian dialectic, than to use a tragedy of their own orchestration to then capitalize upon in solution phase. Right, and that's what they did, and it's just it all coalesced, and this is what they gave us. They gave us this false flag attack, and it started with greed and some things like that. But there was a lot of different angles, and it just seemed to be the best plan. I don't know how many men were involved in it, but it was a handful, just a select handful of wicked men that did this.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at and I don't I kind of don't know how much Bush had control over it. It's more Dick Cheney, and being how much money Dick Cheney owning a Halliburton and how much money he made off of that.
Hey, I just want to share something with you that I just found. Oh my goodness, boys! Uh-oh. So the day that happened, if you recall, President Bush is at an elementary school. I believe they're down in Florida. Have you ever seen the story lesson from that day?
What the book was about? I never paid no attention to it.
No. So where did it just go? One moment, please.
One moment, please.
One moment, please. So
yeah, you got Dick Cheney and Halliburton, and the
where'd it go?
The military global complex.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm back. All right, here it is.
Right. You got it?
I do.
Yeah, they wouldn't have dead air.
Yeah, this is absolutely nuts, man. So share screen. You got to kill your screen for a moment, sir.
I got you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Share screen. We're going to go here. Oh, this is so amazing. This is kind of wild. Let me go ahead and pause this and back this up. Make this bigger. Listen to this.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Pipe. Yes, pipe. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake.
Kite, hit, steel, plane, must.
Get ready. Kick. Yes, kick. Get ready. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Plane. Yes, plane.
That's wild.
Must. Yes, must.
At base 17.
Yeah, I ain't never seen that.
That's
Bro.
That's unsettling. Scripted ritual, huh?
Well, it's like the I know if y'all seen it, being in the conspiracy mind as we are, the dollars where you can fold the 5 and the 10 and it makes the twin towers falling down if you fold it a certain way on the money. And again, I always think they show us up front. We were talking about, me and Jamie were talking about earlier before we started. Dave, have you ever seen Iron Man 3?
I know the first two. I feel like I may have seen it. Remind me.
On Iron Man 3, you have the supposed to be the bad villain, the Mandarin, but you come find out and
Yes.
he is terror and he is terrorizing everybody. And then you turn around and find out he's just an actor, a British actor, and the other guy is actual. So you got somebody in front as the puppet to say, "Hey, here's the bad guy," when somebody else is actually, to be in my mind of the way I watch movies and stuff now, which I hate. I mean, they right there was on TV showing us exactly what happened.
Right.
It's like it rubbing in our face. Like, hey, we'll tell you exactly what we did. We don't have to hide it, but you're not going to believe it. A lot of people. There's more and more coming around, but
that blew my mind.
As we move on, we'll get back there. You're gonna have to go watch it now, ain't you?
Yeah.
So, and the crazy part about that video is Kite, Plane, Steel, whatever the order is, right? Kite is actually a derogatory, that a sounding word is a derogatory word describing a certain group of people. And there are people that make reference to it that say, well, they're talking about, the Israelis being involved in it.
That's a good segue right there, my friend.
I'm here for segues.
Oh God, yeah. I got you. I'm a little slow, but I got you. Fuck.
You're good.
I mean, the K word is not the word kite, but it's very similar to the word like. Right, you know what I mean?
I'm still processing. Those kids are so smart to remember those words. Reminds me of like Trump, like woman, car, television. Remember the test? I would never pass it. I was trying to. I was distracted by that. Yeah, that's mind blowing. That reading ritual. The 5 dancing Israelis. Man, those son of a guns can do some dancing, huh, Ricky?
Yeah. They're pretty amazing. These gentlemen right here, and let's click over here to this video.
That on the morning of 9/11, a lady looked out of her apartment in New Jersey, looking over to the burning tower, the first one, and saw 5 Middle Eastern-looking men filming it, high-fiving and cheering. She took them to be Arabic. She called the police. The police eventually tracked them down. They had traveling around in a white van. They were Israelis. They became known as the Dancing Israelis. They were arrested and kept in custody for 71 days until the ultra-Zionist head of the criminal division of the Justice Department, Michael Chertoff, released them. And how many people know that the same Michael Chertoff released the 200 arrested in the spy ring? And they went back to Israel. These 5 dancing Israelis, 2 of which were known by the police to be Mossad agents, said that they were there to document the event. Well, hold on. How did you know it was going to happen?
Oh.
And they later went on an Israeli talk show and admitted it. They later went on a talk show and fucking bragged about being there to film it.
I got video of that. It's in here. Yeah. It's in the collage of information.
One of the things I was going to say, Ricky,
indicate that even
was just that any one fact, a motherfucker can come and try to debunk one fact or one angle, and they can come and say, well, that's not true. But this is the thing, the accumulation. I mean, it's greater than the sum of its parts. The whole thing stinks. We've been lied to about every single facet of it. It just, the entire thing is so monumentally wrong from top to bottom. Everything is wrong about it. So that's why it's so much to sift through. But anyway, I just wanted to say that earlier because as we go through this, we're like sifting.
I mean, if you look at and you look back in history with, if you look back like at JFK, you know, that's when he stopped when they wanted to use airplanes before they could attack Cuba and use a false flag, but he stopped it.
Operation
like,
Northwoods.
Hell, they had a quotation, good idea. You know what? They're not going to use it again.
Is that why they murked him?
Many reasons for JFK. We can do a whole episode on JFK if y'all want to do it. If the crowd in the chat y'all want to hear a whole JFK episode, I can swing that too. You know, there was lots of people. You know, one trying to do away with the Federal Reserve, which you know, there's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve, just like FedEx. You know, but we can talk about that one day soon. We can do a whole episode if the people want to hear it, for sure. But here's another interesting
by
video.
Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States. Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and or explosive ordnance units. Why would Israelis spy in and on the U.S.? A general...
Just pause there real quick. Explosive ordnance units.
That's interesting.
Just leave that there.
The accounting office investigation referred to Israel as country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally. The document concludes, quote, Israel possesses the resources and technical capability to achieve its collection objectives.
What about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected, none of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. Bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote, Brett.
It is now apparent that this intelligence ring was inside the U.S., had prior knowledge of 9/11, and had a classified role in 9/11, which officials refused to discuss. It was also able to penetrate U.S. intelligence agencies and secret offices, yet all were released. The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
How could they have known about the attack? And who sent them to document it? The evidence points to a large intelligence network inside the United States that had teams on the ground, such as the ones recording the attack, and electronic surveillance teams gathered.
They admitted it's Like you said earlier,
we were
there's
sent
so many
there to
things.
record the attack or the event. Whatever.
Yeah, the accumulation of stuff. It's just piling up, and it's just amazing. The more you can do it. Oh,
hey, let me tell you something about this. So, shortly after September 11, my grandfather passed, and we drove to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, over Riverside, New Jersey, to, of course, go to my grandfather's funeral. But we drove through D.C. and we drove right past the Pentagon. And I remember looking over and seeing the building and seeing all the buildings on the other side of the interstate. And I'm like, where is the fucking video? Where is the footage from all of these hotels over here? Why is none of that video available? We get 3 still shots of a bullshit gate camera. I'm muting now.
it's taken with a potato.
Outside the Pentagon, CNN's military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre. And Jamie, you got very close to where that plane went down.
That's right, Judy. A while ago, I walked right up to next to the building. Firefighters were still trying to put out the blaze. The fire, by the way, is still burning in some parts of the Pentagon. And I took a look at the huge gaping hole that's in this sideway. But from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual side of the building that's crashed in. And as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, a fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around.
Imagine that. And you see pictures of the building, like there's no big holes. There's nowhere like a plane went through it. Like even pictures of the Twin Towers, you can see where the wings went through the building. Pentagon, you don't have that. You do not have that on the Pentagon.
There are spaces of
right
wall. There are where the building collapsed and fell down. There are spaces of window sections that are intact next to the section that collapsed.
Yeah, I've seen.
How?
I mean, a plane supposedly went through this little hole right here. It's preposterous. Here's a round hole inside the Pentagon. And here's another shot. A plane, this is all the plane did was knock a hole right here, and it blew it. And then the picture we just seen is right here inside that building. But that's it. That's
all right.
Absolutely
so the way that the Pentagon is built is the Pentagon is built in different layers, right? There are different buildings and sections, rings around that make the full building. And there are gaps of green space in between the different sections. Okay. So let's just say hypothetically that the building was hit by a cruise missile or a Tomahawk. Probably not a Tomahawk. It'd definitely be a cruise missile because it would have to hit the side of the building and penetrate into the building. And I just don't know if we got Tomahawks that can do that. But I know we have cruise missiles that can do that. That cruise missile would put a hole until it went through to the appropriate ring and got far enough in the building before it would blow, which would leave glass in the front of the building intact because the brunt of the explosion force would be 2 or 3 rings deep into the building. Mm-hmm. I'm no professional explosives expert, but I've been in some houses when some shit's been blown up before, and I can tell you that if you're in another room, you don't catch that much of a blast.
Oh, still in the Pentagon. We won't get to that one yet. Yeah, this is one of the ones as always. It was another one when it first happened, and as soon as I started seeing pictures, it made me question everything. It was another part of it's right there with the passport. It's right up there with like them attacking Iraq instead of Afghanistan. It was right there.
Planes don't do that, bro. Planes don't do that, bro.
If I couldn't find it, I looked for it, but there's footage of the video with the roof still intact of the Pentagon. Right here on the roof, there's a roof. So it was just a round hole. That was it. And then, of course, that footage, I'm sure, is getting wiped off the face of the earth anytime they can find it. But but this right here is just as damning. I mean,
right.
there's no plane. There's no plane in the yard right here. And there's whatever time have you seen plane crash ever in your life? I know in my 45 years, I've never seen a plane crash without plane wreckage. I don't understand it, and there's no plane. There's a bunch of people. There's no plane wreckage. There's just a bunch of people in tents and vehicles and raising hell, which goes right to a good segue of let's play like you were talking about earlier, Jamie. Where is the plane?
Right. Where's the fucking plane? Where's the plane? Help me understand. Now that site there is cleaned up, all right? And show me that's after they cleaned up a little bit. Where's
Getting this question in the 90s.
I guess did I not get a good picture of that? I might be following in. But yeah, you see they were working on it, but there's no wreckage there. You see that's where they were at. A fireball destroyed these trees.
Because I remember they showed an aerial view of that site on the live footage. They had a helicopter over that shit so fast. And what a horrible photo that is. I mean, I'm looking at pictures here online of it, and it's just that shows a tail section. But I don't think that's the right picture.
Yeah, there's no pictures of this planet that they had any. There's no black box. There's no anything was recovered from this site.
Just a fucking hole in the ground.
And then they hurried up and brought in equipment to level the ground back out.
Right.
No investigation, no looking into it, no look to see what was in there because they knew what was in there. Hell, you think makes you wonder.
Right. Okay. Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
I just found a photo here.
All right.
Let me have the con, sir.
Yeah, we can do this.
All right. So here is this alleged crash site, right? Where are the wings? And to be honest, I don't think this is the same one because it showed a hole in the ground, and this doesn't show the hole in the ground. I think this is a different plane crash, bro.
That's got to be a different plane crash because it's not.
But they're advertising this as the Shanksville, PA site. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
Shanksville
think
was a lot of
it
dirt
is.
and big holes.
Right. It was a hole with like a mound on the side of it, and it looked like literally there was just paper scattered everywhere. You know.
Absolutely.
This question in the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
Quietness.
That's on.
Dude.
That's a great hour.
Said in 95 and this. Yeah. That is crazy. Just hear him say, "Oh yeah," it makes you wonder. Like, okay, if you don't if we don't wake up to it, maybe they'll bring it down. Maybe
this question in the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
All right. Any place. They could have said anywhere. They could have said, they're going to blow up the Capitol. They're going to blow up this or anything. But the exact
specifically used. Here's the issue that I have. Like, these guys painted an entire religion as extreme terrorist organization, right? When you start to understand that every idea and group behind extreme Islam are all government funded entities, and they've all been given money by U.S. Special needs groups, these different the NGOs, or the government directly loading up planes full of pallets of cash and dropping them off with organizations. I'm just saying these things happen. We have funded every bit of anti-U.S. sentiment around the world. I should probably mute my mic again.
Any thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, no, that makes sense because they have to gas up their military-industrial complex, and we are a nation built on war, unfortunately. And you have neocons, and that unfortunately, that little moniker doesn't fall along party lines. You got Hillary Clinton, a neocon. You got Bush, a neocon. You got Trump, not a neocon. Now, he's very pro-Israel. He's concerningly Zionist, one might say, if one were a anti-Semitic, bigot or something. But anyway, but Kamala is very, I think, neocon, right? She's backed by some neocons. Who came out today? Cheney came out today. Fucking Cheney came out today and said, "Yeah, we want Kamala." Right? Did you see that? So, so they are very, very pro-war. Trump came out and said, in 2015, before he ran, he said, I'm going to get us out of these forever wars, this 20-year fucking, graveyard of empires. I'm going to get us out of there. And he largely did that, other than an insubordinate Mark Milley who drug his feet on Afghanistan. They let Biden do that. But we didn't get another new war under Trump. And that was a very, very impressive feat. Unfortunately, we did get hit with another inside job. Fucking COVID was another mega huge impactful event like 9/11 that was an inside job. One that
didn't
we won't
really
recover
lie
from.
to Trump.
Sure, yeah. He was insubordinate. He we already talked about what he did with China and tell the Chinese basically, I'll be a fuse breaker. I'm not gonna. So, but he
and then he lied about number of forces on the ground throughout the theater of the Middle East. Yep.
So he's a traitor, and
so
but my point was just that Trump didn't. And even when they tried to get Trump, like they shot that an unmanned drone, they were like, I remember Sean Hannity on Fox saying, we got to bomb the fuck out of Iran, like right now. And Trump's like, we're going to use a measured response. It was unmanned, and he didn't take the bait. So if he gets back in, I hope he will stay the course on keeping America out of any wars or conflicts. But we'll see.
There's generations of kids right now like that we've the whole time they've been alive that we've been at wars with somebody. It's sad to think, that's how it's been for so many years.
Yep.
We had a little break.
And they're all illegal wars because they're not properly sanctioned through a certain majority of congressional support, right? Like you got to fucking get permission to go to war, but they do it. They're every fucking where they stay. I mean, and then of course what the intel operatives do is just, they're entwined, and that's next level. There's no oversight there. So yeah, it's huge and corrupt and has gotten way, way too big.
For sure. This next video, my buddy Alex Jones.
Joining us is Richard Gage. A few years ago, he founded Architects and Engineers 9/11 Truth. It's got thousands of members now, and it's made international headlines across the world. Hundreds of television programs have basically tried to debunk Mr. Gage and, of course, failed because he is a prominent architect, and he's got physicists, architects, engineers. It's over 1,500 now that are speaking out, and he's in Toronto for the truth hearing. So we're going to talk to him about that in a moment, and then I'm going to get his view on the video we just played earlier. We interviewed more than 15 people in Austin randomly and asked, what do you think of Building 7, and showed them on an iPad the building falling. And all but one said, looks like controlled demolition. Where Architects and Engineers is right now, what these truth hearings are, and where you think 9/11 Truth is going 10 years on.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm representing 1,500 architects and engineers, now 1,560 actually. And these are demanding a real investigation of the destruction of the 3 center high-rises on 9/11. And the people in the street understand that Building 7 is a demolition. And I want to tell you also that every architect and engineer that I talk to, almost without exception, really, when they see Building 7, they agree it is a controlled demolition. And then they're just shocked. Their jaws are open. They're receptive to hearing the evidence about the Twin Towers, which, of course, unfortunately, is replete with evidence, science-based forensic evidence, documenting its controlled demolition.
Those are the guys I always kind of lean towards. They don't have no. They're
not making any money off of it. There's no profit to be made there. You know what I mean?
No, there's none of that, and it's not like they're not conspiracy theory. Like, oh, this, the hologram, the jets, and all that. None of that. They just want to know how, because physics say the building has to, and they're engineers and they're architects. They know how buildings work, and they know how to build buildings. They don't understand it, and they're the ones that are trying to find out how. Let's do it in depth. How did this happen? For one, I mean, if it's possible without, if you, devil's advocate, if on one side, if it's even possible without having all the demolition and all the stuff happening that we truly know it happened, then they need to know. So keep from other buildings happening. But since then, not another building has failed like that. We've had buildings burn for 3 days, and
there was a building in maybe Dubai. Maybe Dubai, like this massive high-rise building, like fucking burned for days, man. Never collapsed. No structural failure, no loss of integrity, no random building falling out of the sky. None of that, Yeah.
Amazing.
It's crazy how it's so select that gravity works on buildings in strange ways, huh?
It's New York City, they're cursed. It's just New York City. Only that happens there. But it's the only time it ever happened there. But that's just a coincidence. That's all. Coincidence. Quinkadink.
Coinky-dink. It's a coinky-dink.
What would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald? How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald.
Very reminiscent.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Well, then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, come on.
No, not come off it. Wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to people.
Wait a minute. Depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well,
one
then
thing I do know is.
Let me ask you this.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour, yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true, that this building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
We need to take a break.
Broadcasting company, one of the most respected news organizations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over. You need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me? This is a fact, my friend.
Yeah, Jesse was insulted right there, as I would have been. Piers Morgan's a little bitch. I never liked him.
I mean, like him or hate him, Jesse Ventura has some good points that he comes out with, and that was one of them. He don't back down. I give him credit for that. Like, he don't give a damn who he's talking to, but he's gonna tell him how he feels his point is, and exactly how he feels his point is. For sure that
you remember Jesse's show back in the day. Whatever happened to that, man? I guess it ran its course. The History Channel shows.
Discovery Channel.
Yeah, it was on
Discovery Channel or something. No, it was on True TV. It was on True TV. It was I forget what he had an actor that black lady. What was her name? She was English. Was on there, and they go around and finding stuff out and everything. But yeah, I used to watch that. I mean, Jesse's no nonsense. I mean, you need to stop that yawning stuff over there. At least mute up when you do it. It's not that late. I got, let's see.
Forget the politicians.
One more.
The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
You ain't in it.
You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't.
For sure.
They don't give a fuck about you.
That's right.
That's
Say it twice.
For sure. I had to put him at the end, just how he kind of
pretty spot on, bro. Pretty spot on. He nails it on the head. It's
he does. I mean, and that's the truth. I look at it in a skewed look. I'm kind of skewed of, you got the left wing, right wing, you got the same bird. They're over here. There's a picture I post on Facebook every once in a while, and it's Democrats and Republicans, and there's you in the middle, and dudes holding hands with the girl on the other side, which is supposed to be, holding hands behind their back. And I truly believe that. I truly believe they're all, after they get off the news and cuss each other out and talk how terrible they are.
They all go out and have dinner together. They all kick it at the same bars, the same clubs. Oh, fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, that stuff that made me look at it was, you look at when Trump went against the last few elections, maybe look, Mitt Romney versus Obama. Hell, you had the same person. The same people were backing them. You can look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. The same banks and companies were backing both of them. And if you look at, and then you turn around and you got the first run is 16 for Trump and versus Hillary. And hell, Hillary and Bill was at his wedding. They were buddies and whatever. And then all of a sudden now they're going to turn around and they hate each other and the worst person ever. And the media has drugged Trump all through the mud. I don't know. It's just a show. I truly think it's just a show, just to give us a thought.
Once you realize that Hollywood and Washington are the same thing
for a long time, for almost like 100 years now. If you look back in the old movies and stuff, the propaganda movies of pushing for World War I and World War II, and every time you turn around, and the media used to try to get people to drum up and get the support, like, okay, we got to do this, and now you're looking back in history, and you got some that say Pearl Harbor was a false flag, and we did it to ourselves.
Interesting.
We know the Tompkins Bay incident was Tompkins Bay incident, and for Vietnam, a war that nobody wanted to go to, so they had to do something before we can go over there, and then when our poor soldiers got back over here, they wouldn't even take care of them. They treated them like dirt, and most of them went homeless, or they wouldn't get them medical help. It kept over and over. You just keep seeing that same. They recycle the same bullshit over and over again. If you look back and actually you look at it with skewed eye, I think that's just my opinion.
3 months prior to 9/11,
sure.
a blockbuster film came out with Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale. Pearl Harbor, remember? And there was a bunch of people from these NGOs and these think tanks that had been saying, like, if we want to get over into the Middle East, we're going to have to gin up some support for a foreign war with some patriotic fervor. And something short of a Pearl Harbor moment, it's going to be tough to do that. And there's 2 or 3 big wigs of that nature on record making that statement, using that phrase, Pearl Harbor. And then that movie comes out to psychologically prime us for the false flag that was to come, so that we would respond with the predictable fury and patriotism, the fervor, and it wasn't, and that didn't sour in time. That shit soured later as facts came out, as we became weary of the war and the economy took a downturn in Bush's second, right? But we were all aboard when it mattered, and when we were passing the Patriot Act, and then when we were sending soldiers over there to the sandbox. But they primed us up for that. They played us good.
And people signing up. Yeah, there were people were signing up. They wanted to go over there. You know, just like World War II. You know, you had kids, you know,
Lying
falsifying their
about their
age
age. If
just
I'm
so they
not
can go over
mistaken,
there.
there was a kid that was 13 or 14 years old that ended up overseas fighting.
Yeah, I mean, that's how much they, you know, they felt like they should be over there, and God rest their souls, you know, that thought that process of, you know, want us to keep us safe, but
Well, Ricky, that's the thing too,
you
brother.
know,
It's
more and more
really
you see.
difficult to talk about this because those people that did give their lives, and so people will interpret what we're discussing and say you're insulting their sacrifice, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact,
No, I mean, my grandfather that served a tour in Korea, 2 in Vietnam, 2 Purple Hearts, all the Agent Orange and stuff they sprayed on all them damn people over there. He
Right.
got emphysema and all kinds of terrible health and a month after he passed away, he got the letter saying they're going to let him have the surgery he needed to keep him alive. Yeah, I mean, so that's, you know, that's what you get, you know, for sacrificing. And he sacrificed his whole life to the military. He got out, and as an army, got out, and then went back as a civilian to work for the army afterwards. He was out for like a year and went right back, you know.
Right.
But I say one thing he told me don't do it, Ricky.
Right.
Whatever you do, don't do it. It's not worth it. And I mean, and that stuck to my head because I had, of course, you know, I had recruiters and stuff coming out the woodwork, coming to my house, and you know, my whole family military. And
Hey, this is fun. The youngest person, all right, Calvin Leon Graham was the youngest U.S. serviceman to serve and fight during World War II and was one of the few known child soldiers to fight on behalf of the United States. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, he enlisted in the United States Navy from Houston, Texas on August 15, 1942, at the ripe old age of 12 years old. It shows that he only did a year. He got out. Then he went back in 1948 and served from 48 to 51. He ended up in the Navy. He started out as a seaman. He ended up joining looks like the Marine Corps when he went back and made it to the rank of corporal. He was on the USS South Dakota when he saw action at the Battle of Santa Cruz. Yeah, and then he joined the Marine Corps. Holy crap, man. In 1988, Graham received disability benefits and back pay for his years of service in the Navy after President Ronald Reagan signed a legislation that granted Graham full disability benefits and increased his back pay to $4,917 a month and allowed him $18,000 in past medical. Check that out. Wow. Received a Purple Heart. Yeah.
Pretty
Check
impressive.
him
That's
out,
pretty amazing.
man. Check him out. Bronze Star with a Combat V. Look at him go, man.
Have you seen lately another cover up? While we're talking about cover ups and stuff, the USS Liberty. Have you seen that? I seen recently they were talking about trying to cover it up. It's where during the 6-day war with Israel versus Egypt, they actually turn around and the Israelis actually fired on one of our spy ships until they run out of ammo. It was the word. They said, well, there's no markings. They had markings everywhere. They actually put the 4th flag up there because they kept shooting the other one up, and they actually just ran out of ammo when they stopped. And then when they got back over here, they turned around and they were told to not say anything about it. Swore to secrecy because they didn't want the relations there damaged because, you know, of course they were saying they didn't know it was an American ship, even though it was marked all over the place.
Right.
Well, see, Alex Jones
people, poor lives
reported in some of his early documentaries that Lyndon B. Johnson, and I remember looking for these tapes. I wanted to fact check them and see if it was true, but Lyndon B. Johnson declassified tapes saying he wanted that boat at the bottom of the fucking ocean because that was another false flag, a reason to get us involved in a conflict that we had no reason to be in. And so that's what they do, gin up support for wars using false flags. But it was LBJ, right? And who was president after they killed Kennedy, right? Who was opposed to that sort of crap. So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, because they wanted a way to draw America into, and what's, not saying this is my thought or whatever, some conspiracy theorist thought is that, Israel was trying to blow up our ship and sink it. So if they sank it, then would have brought us to let us fight the war for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have went over there and blew and bombed the shit out of Egypt, and they wouldn't have to deal with it.
Yep.
Of course, that didn't happen.
Makes you wonder about October 7th over there at the rock concert.
Yeah. I've got questions about it. Things don't make sense,
There's so many. The more you dig, the deeper down the little rabbit hole you run, and the more you ask questions, the more questions are there to be asked, and it's endless. And then eventually you're asking questions. You're just completely on the mindset of you're questioning everything, every bit of TV, music, everything. They've been used. I got a book. What's the name of the book? I'll find it in a second. But talking about how the government took over the hippie movement and used music and trying to
controlled opposition.
What was the name of that?
Yeah. Well, I've heard stories that the whole Charlie Manson story was a CIA freaking op. I don't know, man.
I mean, he had family in CIA, I think, and there was a lot of connections there, for sure.
Well, brothers, my hotspot's fixing to die along with my phone here in a minute, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this commemorative memorial edition of Anything Is Possible, and bid you guys a farewell this evening before it cuts out.
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your insight, and glad you got to listen and be part of this. Hopefully we can do more of these. Jess of Escape to Simulation, she says she wants to hear the JFK one, so we're gonna have to get together and we'll plan that one day. We got to do some research for sure, but we'll do a JFK, and so be on the lookout for stuff to put on and add to it. Yeah, I got a mark for putting some JFK on my YouTube. They weren't happy with me. The violence on there is terrible. But just using the Zelensky video, I think we lost Dave though. Guess we could wrap it up though. You ain't got no mic going, my friend, Mr. Jamie.
Damn it. I'm like, until next time, my guy. Shit.
Yeah, 2 hours in, you get tired. Well, we appreciate you, everybody listening, and I appreciate the ones that come in the chat. I got a hiker emoji in the chat. Of course, we got Jess with Escape to Simulation on there. She has a great podcast. Also, it's on YouTube, and people need to check that one out too. Appreciate y'all listening. Please like and share. I'm gonna try to post this on YouTube when I can get off. We're gonna get off being bad, get off my strike, I guess. And so please, I say like and share. I'm on all the podcasts. I've been adding some more the other day, so you can, if you name it, you'll probably see my podcast there. If you don't see it, please please let me know, and I'll get it on there. So on the main ones, the Apple, the Spotify, YouTube, Rumble. Got a Facebook page now, so I'm trying to spread a little knowledge on there. Also on Trouble Minds Radio. You know exactly where you and we're sitting there. What do you got going there, Jamie?
I don't know, man. Some weird shit just got sent to me.
Oh, Trouble Minds Radio Network. I'm actually syndicated on it, so you can hear me and a bunch of other amazing shows, the Trouble Minds Show, and like Salcedo Paranormal. Is another great show on there, and there's several of them. There's a lot of great shows that plays on there. You can check them out. So I appreciate y'all, and as always, y'all just keep on keeping on, and hopefully we'll see you next week, and we're not banned from everything.
We're trying.
I think we're trying, for sure, but we're trying to put out information, and we're trying, that people want to hear, and hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and something that you've never heard of. Hopefully we open your mind to something tonight. So
right.
Thank you.
Peace.
Keep on keeping on, and peace and chicken grease. Y'all be good.